All right, welcome everyone to the first official episode of the Hit the Papo podcast. I don't know if I like that name, by the way. I just thought of it. I remember a few months ago, I made the channel and I called it Hit the Papo because after 6 months of living in Brazil in 2021, I learned a lot of cool Brazilian slang. And there's this expression in Brazil that's called, bater o papo. They basically say that to refer to going out for a chat, having a chat. It literally means bater. The word bater in Portuguese means to hit. So like bate, hit. O papo. Papo is the chat itself. So yeah, I don't know. I just figured I'd call it Hit the Papo because we're hitting the papo. We're hitting the chat. We're having a chat. That's what we're going to do on this podcast. Whether it's going to be just me monologuing or maybe we'll have guests in the future. I don't know. It all depends on if I ever get good at this. So basically, bear with me. We have no fancy audio equipment, no fancy cameras. I'm using my vlogging camera as the mic right now. So if I don't really get this together post-production, we might have crappy audio. Deal with it. But anyways, I want to get right into it. We have some topics for today. Honestly, I had a bunch of things that I wanted to talk about and I wasn't sure which one to choose. So I just decided to put up a question thing on Instagram and basically let you guys ask a bunch of questions. So I'm going to go pull these questions up and then we'll be able to start. And the questions are kind of pretty different from one another because a lot of my Instagram followers are Brazilian. So yeah, because back in the day I was making content in Portuguese and a lot of my followers are Brazilian. And so if a lot of you guys watching this are Brazilian, I apologize if my English is too fast, if I'm speaking too quick. I will try to keep that in mind. If anyone's even watching this at all, I don't expect anyone to be watching this, but we have a few questions and I want to answer them. So, where do we start? Somebody asked me how I learned speaking English. How did you learn speaking English? How did I learn to speak English? Well, I was simply born into it. I'm originally from the United States, from Florida. So, as an American, yes, or a United Statian, I know how to speak English. Anyways, what else did you guys ask? You guys asked, how do you start learning a language from scratch? How do you start learning a language from scratch? I actually posted the reply to this question, the answer to this question on my stories, and I basically gave 4 simple steps to this process of how you learn a language from scratch. Number 1, you have to genuinely want to learn it and not need to learn it, right? That's very important. A lot of people say, hey, I really have to learn English because I got this job or I work with tourists, so I need to learn English. And when you go into that whole needing it, you just kind of telling me that you don't really like it. It's something that you dread. It's like a burden on your life. You much rather just have a job where you don't need to use English, you don't need to know English, or you want to go study something or work in something where you just don't need it. So why, don't tell me that you need to learn English. I understand it's a necessity for a lot of people, but try to find a way to want it and then it'll make it a lot easier. Step number 2 is not being afraid to sound dumb. A lot of us have egos. We're egotistical. We are full of ourselves. We always like to be seen in a good image. We want to be seen as the man, the smart guy, the tough guy. Well, guess what? If you're learning a new language, you're a little nothing. You're new to this world. You got to accept that and move on. So get rid of your ego. Don't be afraid to sound dumb. Step number 3, make friends with people who only speak your target language. So if you're trying to learn French, you gotta hang out with people who only speak French. You're trying to learn Spanish, hang out with people who only speak Spanish. And I learned that, I learned Spanish and Portuguese through doing just that. I remember I was in Colombia. I went to a random city, Bucaramanga, where there weren't that many tourists. And I was chilling with these people from Bogota. This whole crew from Bogota came in and none of them knew English. And all of a sudden, it was me practicing my Spanish with somebody that wasn't a taxi driver or wasn't a waiter at the restaurant. These were, new friends that I had made and they want to know about my life. They want to know my story. So I all of a sudden, I want to become friends with these people. I wanted to go out with them and drink. I wanted to visit them in Bogota. I'm like, I want these guys to be my friends. They seem really nice. And so, yeah, I had to like really struggle through it, but I learned a lot of Spanish that weekend, and that was kind of the curve for me to fluency. So you got to make those friends who only speak the language you're trying to learn. And step number 4, using Google and other free online resources. This is like, I still use Google Translate all the time. I'm like fluent in Portuguese and Spanish, but like, to be honest, every once in a while, I still got to pull out the translator, and I got to use those free online resources. Like, what's the internet for, guys? Come on. Everything that your teacher in your language course is going to teach you, nowadays it's available for free. So you got to believe that. If you don't believe me, go into Google, type in anything you want to know. Translator, there's other materials, other websites. They tell you all this stuff for free. You're just being a little lazy. Let's be honest. Anyways. Oh, I lost the archive, guys. I need the questions. Where are my questions? That's basically language learning. That's the language learning question. That's how I answered it. That's what I believe. If I have anything smarter that I come up with down the line, I will be sure to share it with you guys. We can do a separate podcast on that, maybe with someone interesting who has a different opinion than mine. What else? Here are the Brazil questions, guys. Here are the Brazil's questions. But before we go to the Brazil questions, I had a friend of mine ask, do you change the way you think when switching between languages spoken? And there's a simple answer for that, for me at least, my personal experience. The answer is no. I don't change the way that I think, because I'm still Adam. In every language, I'm Adam, right? So the way that I think, that doesn't change. But I do notice that like my character kind of changes in the sense of like how high my voice pitch is. Like I feel like Spanish and Portuguese, like my voice is a little higher pitched. I feel like less masculine when I'm speaking Spanish and Portuguese. I don't know why. It just, because like Portuguese also, you got to be like singing. It's always like, you hear Brazilian Portuguese, you hear them speak. It's like they're singing a song. So for me, yeah, that's what changes. But the way that I think does not change. What else? Here we go with the Brazil questions. What do you like more in Brazil and the Brazilians? I know that I'm just literally reading these. But basically this question is asking me, what did I like most about Brazil and the Brazilians? I mean, there's a lot of answers to that, but basically the main thing, I like how the people out there, how they interact with each other when they don't know each other. When you see someone for the first time, like, maybe you're at a volleyball class, or you're at a bar and you're chatting with the table next to you, or you're in line for to go into a club or to some event, and you're just chatting up the guy next to you or the girl next to you, and the way that Brazilians engage in conversation with each other without personally knowing each other, the way they greet each other, it's very quick, it's very easy. They're full of smiles. It's not uncommon to like join tables, and join groups and join forces and all of a sudden become friends, exchange Instagrams. It's very different from other countries like in Europe or in the US where, like you're not really going to add someone on Instagram unless like you really, really want to like hang out with them again or really want to get to know them. In Brazil, it's like, hey man, we connected on something for 3 minutes. Like, hey, let's exchange info. Maybe we'll see each other again. Maybe not. But like, let's follow each other's lives. Let's show interest in one another. So I think that's cool. And I really like it. In Brazil is definitely a country that's easy to make friends in. If you don't know anyone, you can go there and you can make friends with almost anyone. But learning Portuguese will help. What else do we got? I like this, a little Q&A. There's not that many questions, but I feel like this is a good first episode. You guys are helping me practice, and I appreciate that. For those of you who are still watching, congratulations. Good for you. You have patience, tolerance, and I appreciate the support. So someone asked this question. They asked it in Portuguese, and I want to translate it. They said, como estar/conhecer o Brasil influenciou sua visão do resto do mundo? Which basically, This girl was asking, how did being in Brazil influence your vision of the rest of the world? And I thought that was such an interesting question, because everywhere I go in the world, and I've been to about 32 countries now, everywhere I go in the world kind of like teaches me something. And yeah, I don't know, like I really love adapting to a new place each time. I just love it. Like some people just like to be in their comfort zone. I love to go out and go to a different country, get culture shocked, get over that culture shock, get comfortable, and really spend some time there. And if I have the opportunity to do so, I learn even more. So in Brazil, it was a country where I spent 6 months there in 2021. I spent 2 months there just recently. And I learned so much. I think that how it influenced my view on the rest of the world, it's been making me think that, being in Brazil, I'm trying to figure out, I'm just answering this on the spot. I did not prepare an answer for this. It's such a tough question, but I think being in Brazil really taught me that where you are, the place's history, its climate, its language, its traditions, like all of that just has such a big influence on how you're gonna be as a person, like how you're gonna act, what you're gonna do, what you're gonna dedicate your life to. And I think that, when I compare Brazil to places like in Scandinavia or in Asia, which I've never even been to, so I can't compare Asia, or the United States or Mexico, right? Like you just see how different weather, different foods, different ethnicities, different music. And so I think that it's interesting, like Brazil specifically, I'm dancing around this and I'm not really answering the question, but here we go. Brazil is one of those places that makes me believe that the rest of the world needs to sometimes relax, smile, interact, be happy for no freaking reason. Brazilians have a lot of reasons to complain. They have a lot of reasons to be sad or angry. But I see that they choose oftentimes the opposite, the complete opposite. They want to be happy. They're celebrating. They're so joyful. All the samba, pagode, like all the festive music, the carnival, the parties, the barbecue, everyone getting together, the family, the friends. I think that Brazil taught me that the rest of the world can just take a second and think about life, find a reason to be happy about it, and enjoy yourself, and have closer contact with the people next to you. That's what Brazil taught me. I think that, the friendships and all that stuff, that's really how Brazil influenced my view of the rest of the world. I think that the rest of the world is going through struggles, just like Brazil is going through struggles. Everyone's going through struggles. Everyone is going through good and bad in their country. We can put stats on paper and say, hey, Switzerland, because they have all this safety and all this money, it's the best country. Like it might not necessarily be the case. If you go live in Switzerland, you might not be so happy at the end of the day. I've seen people in Brazil, like I said, who have all the reasons on paper to be terribly depressed, but they're not. So I think that Brazil has influenced the way that I view the rest of the world in that way. It's that not all of these on paper statistics and these great conditions can guarantee you that happiness that you're looking for. And I think that we have good moments and bad moments. And Brazil is a country that knows how to take advantage of the good moments. Really appreciate those good moments. So I think that's how I'm going to answer that question, guys. And I think it's a question that if I give it more thought, I might come up with more answers. But just so we can continue and move on, I don't want to make this thing like a 1-hour episode. I also kind of want to see if I can do this uncut. I'll have to view this afterwards and see if I need to edit anything out. But podcasting is totally new to me. I'm used to making travel vlogs, and I'm not even that used to it. I'm still new to that as well. So yeah, bear with me. What else? What else did people ask me? When did you decide to post contents about other countries? You inspired me to do the same. I am so happy at this stage of my content creation career. I don't want to call it a career because I haven't made $1 yet. But I'm so happy that I was able to inspire at least one person. So if you wrote that truthfully, if I actually inspired you, then I really appreciate you, and I'm really happy to hear that. When I decided to create content, I mean, it was 2016, and I didn't create content at that time, but 2016, I was in the military, and I was watching these travel vloggers going through the Philippines, through Thailand, Vietnam, and there were these backpackers like from Canada and from the US, and they were just kind of like, you know, backpacking their way through Southeast Asia, showing some of the nice, like the most beautiful beaches you've ever seen. And I had no freedom at the time because I was in the military. And I was just like, damn, I want to go to these places. And my release date was in 2017, March 2017. And I was going to go to the Philippines, I remember, because I was like watching this guy. He was traveling in the Philippines. I was like, that's where I want to go. I want to go see those blue waters and that white sand beach. That's where I want to go. And I'm going to buy a GoPro and I'm going to go film my adventures. And I basically started learning Spanish not so long after that. So I decided to redirect myself and go to South America, Mexico and South America. And I bought the GoPro. And I think like the only thing that I had ever filmed on the GoPro was like me jumping into a cenote, like one of those Mexican blue rivers or whatever, those natural pools. And yeah, because I was just like thrilled, you know, the GoPro can go in the water and we're going to film all these adventures. And I don't know, I never thought about editing or any of that. And basically that was the only thing I ever filmed. It was like one day and then I was just too scared to film anything else. And so, yeah, I never filmed anything in 2017. So why am I telling you all this? Well, basically the urge to film started then, and I had the camera and I had the urge, but I was too scared. I was too embarrassed to post anything on social media about my travels, anything that wasn't like just like a normal person post. Creating content wasn't like as much of a thing then. And it, you know, those who did it, like you had to have these editing skills, or you had to, like, you didn't even need to have it. That was just what was going on in my mind. But that was where the initial interest sparked. And then when the pandemic hit and I was in the middle of law school and everything, and the pandemic hit and like life just kind of got super lame and boring. And again, I was watching people traveling and talking about languages. And I realized I'm like, I've been to all these places. I've learned all these languages. I've never hit record. What the hell am I doing? And the pandemic was one of those times where it was like, what are you doing with your life? There's people who are dying at such a young age who aren't even going to get to see another day to even chase anything that they ever wanted. What are you doing with your life? You wanted to make travel videos and talk about cultures and languages for years, and you haven't made one video? Like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? So then in 2021, that's when I finally grew a pair and I decided to create content. And I was initially doing it on TikTok with the Portuguese and English because I was learning Portuguese online, and I saw how many Brazilians wanted help with English. So I was like, yeah, I'll do these language videos and these funny videos about culture in Brazil. And when I went on exchange, I went on a semester abroad, lived in Sao Paulo, traveled around Brazil, made some TikTok and Instagram reels and stuff like that. And it was great. It was all in Portuguese, gained like 30,000 followers. And then I realized, like, damn, this is great, but it's not what I initially wanted to do. I wanted to go and make content about other countries that I'm traveling to, not just Brazil, not just in Portuguese. I want to tell my story. So that's why I changed everything. I made everything in English now. And of course I have interactions in Portuguese and in Spanish and in French, and wherever I'm going, I try to adapt myself, pick up some of the local language, make some friends, show the place, cover some interesting stories. But basically here we are now. My main channel that I vlog on has like, you know, a little over 1,000 subscribers. I've made like 65 videos, and I'm so at the beginning. It's overwhelming. I always think about, like, you know, when am I going to get good? Am I getting better? Are people liking my videos? I hope that one day they will. but that's basically the whole journey, man. Like, I hope I answered your question. Like, I had the first thought in 2016. Here we are in 2023. So that's 7 years later. You know how good I could have gotten in 7 years. But instead of beating myself up about it, I'm just like, you know what? You're on year 2, Adam, or on year 3, whatever it is now. That's the reality. Getting over the fear of posting, of hitting record. Get over the fear, whatever it is. Once you're over the fear, every day is yours. Every day is yours. You can do something. Right now it's Saturday night. I'm supposed to be out drinking and making friends here in Buenos Aires, but I decided, you know what? You always talk about this podcast you're going to start, and you never started it. I created this channel in October 2022. And here we are. It's the end of April. It's almost May 2023. So I let this thing sit for 6 months without an episode, thinking, oh, I'm not ready to be podcasting yet. Nobody knows who I am. They're not going to watch. They're not going to listen. But here we are. We're getting over our fears once again. So I hope that if there's anything that you want to do with your life and you're too scared, as long as you have the health and the opportunity to go and pursue it, then all that's left is getting over your fear. So if that's all that's left for you, get over the fear. Because there's people who don't have the fear and they just don't have the money or the health or the opportunity. Get over the fear. The fear, you're so in control of this. So anyways, I don't want to get too deep into that, but that's how I decided to post content about other countries. I really want to show everyone's culture and talk about language and traditions and foods. And I just want the world to get to know each other so much better, because I think that a lot of the world's problems come from the fact that, we don't know each other. We don't speak each other's languages. We don't know what each other's families do. Like, we don't understand it. It seems weird. Like, it seems scary. Everything that you don't know, you're scared of. I see it on the older people. Like I see it on my grandparents even, or I see it on people our age. And this is something that just generation to generation, it always exists, but it exists kind of like in a different way. Like, our grandparents will criticize us and we'll criticize them. Hey, you guys aren't open. You guys aren't accepting. You guys are stupid. It's all because we've each had different exposures to different things, and we're only willing to accept things that we've gotten to know well enough, that we've become familiar with, that aren't a threat to us. So I think that, like, other cultures and other people and foods and traditions and, I don't know, habits, like, when you understand where someone comes from and how they live, you develop more of like an empathy towards them, and you develop more of an understanding, and then it becomes so much easier to share the world together. So I think that, as somebody who has the opportunity and the blessing to be able to travel, to be able to, pick up other people's languages, I feel like it's my job in this world to kind of share those insights and these learnings with other people, because I don't expect everyone to have the time, energy, or will, to learn other people's languages or to be able to travel to other continents. I want to use this thing that we have that's called the internet. I want to use it for good. I want to share whatever I can to help educate people, to help empower people, to help people understand one another, love one another if they can, if we can get to that point. But yeah, who knows? The world's a lot of fun. Places are fun, man. And like when you leave your home country, there's a lot of scary things out there, but there's a lot of things and there's a lot of people that are just so worth meeting. And once you get exposed to that, who knows? You might fall in love with it too. Somebody asked me how do you manage to get by economically while doing all this inspirational work? Again, I am so happy, and I can't believe that there's even people who think that my work is inspirational, because we're at such an early stage and I feel like I haven't even done anything worthy yet. But thank you again. How do I get by economically? Well, during the pandemic, one of the things that I started while I was starting that whole like TikTok and that language content, was a sports cards business. Me and my brother, basically, I can tell you the whole story. It was in 2020 or 2021. Yeah, I think it was in 2021. I get home. I was at a bar with friends. Like, there was like at Florida, it was like kind of like reopening at the time, the pandemic. So I was at like a local bar with friends, had a couple of drinks, like went back to my house, and my brother and I were just chilling. I was sharing a room with him because I was staying at my parents' house. And my little brother was like watching this Instagram live of like these guys who were like auctioning sports cards. And I knew that like the sports cards like market was kind of booming at the time. And he was like, yo, Adam, like, look at these guys. They're auctioning these cards. They're reselling them. People are loving this. Like, there's no reason why we can't do this. And I was like, damn, you're right. And we just kind of started like buying sports cards and then reselling them. We would do like these box breaks where people would pay and they would buy the cards, and groups of people would like throw in money, and they would join these auctions, these live auctions that we'd run on Instagram Live. We would do giveaways, and like we started the business with $2,000, and then we kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And then my brother still runs that business today, and he makes a lot more money than we used to make. But I left the business at an early stage, and I basically took my little chunk of money. It's not a big chunk, it's a little chunk. And now I'm in Latin America, where I don't have to waste so much of it. I'm in Buenos Aires, where, you know, inflation here is crazy. It's terrible what's happening out here. But the dollar is very strong here. And so as long as I can make more content and keep on doing this, that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully this money doesn't run out, because if my chunk of money runs out, then I'm going to have to get a normal job, and it'll be harder to make YouTube videos. But I still do believe that if that day comes and I have to get a normal job, I'm still going to make YouTube videos, just because I'm having a lot of fun being creative. And I don't know, making videos is cool, especially if you make one that like that people really like. It gives you this drive to make more. So at the beginning it's hard, and it's still hard right now because it's still the beginning. But yeah, that's basically how I get by economically. And I'm not the best with managing my money. I think that I'm pretty good, but I'm not the best. So I really am trying to make this money last and trying to make as many good videos as I can. What else? What else did they ask me? That's pretty much it. That's it. I ran through those questions. How much time are we on? This is a half-hour podcast. 27 minutes, 28 minutes. Alrighty. I think, what else should we do, guys? I think that's it. I think that's what we're going to do for today. I think that's going to be the first episode of the Hit the Papo podcast. And we might change the name, because I don't know if I thought it sounded cool when I typed it, but when I just said it now, I don't know if I like that. Saying that for the second or third time, I don't know. Hit the Papo podcast. We might need a new name. Let me know. Can you give me an idea for a new name, for a podcast name? We might keep this one, but in case we don't, just write something in the comments. If you listened all the way through, thank you so much. That's it, guys. I hope you like my travel videos, and if you don't, then I hope maybe you like the little chats that we're gonna have. So yeah. Oh wow, I don't know how to end a podcast. See you later, guys.